So the next thing that we're doing is another high performance sports psych topic or mental performance topic, and that is going to be deliberate practice. And to kick that off, we have a little video that's going to play for you. Welcome to Pumping Brain Cells, the show for the serious mental performer.
Well, hello there. I am Hans.
And I am Franz.
And we are here to sports psych you up. We are coming to you from this nice gym here, and we are going to talk about some sports psych issues because we are the new cross-country recruit.
All the way from Germany. We are coming for you, Tyler Schneider.
Oh, but you know what? We would really like one of those nice muscle tanks that Kenny Cushing wears.
They are very tight and excellent for showing off your muscles to the other competitors.
Schwarzenegger would approve.
Oh, yeah.
So we should get a nice topic for this team to learn from. Do you have one for me, Franz?
Oh, yeah. It's called deliberate practice.
Oh, deliberate practice. Good topic. There's 3 parts to that. The first one is breaking down your event and coming up with the skills necessary for expert performance. Do you know the second part?
The second part is getting feedback, a lot of times from your coach, about what you are doing. So, if Hans over here is doing a power clean, I would tell him, get those flabby butt muscles moving faster, Hans.
Oh man, that would work well. I wish that Schwarzenegger would give me feedback. Oh! The third part to deliberate practice is the idea of continuing to challenge yourself and taking it to another level. I know that Schwarzenegger does this by putting more weight on the bar every time, if that's even possible.
Oh!
So, think of that while you're at practice. Are you being deliberate in what you are doing so that you can achieve expert performances? Yeah!
Yeah!
Till next time, good luck, Mizzou track and field.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Whoa! Whoa!
All right, well, thank you guys for bearing with me. Give it up for those guys. If you don't notice, I may have used some little muscle enhancing underneath that sweatshirt, but Ben claims that he didn't put anything under there. That was all real. I'll also say that while I was preparing for this, I may have been in that little back office watching a few Hans and Franz videos, and Coach Halter walks by and he just goes, "Oh, Hans and Franz, cool. I was that for Halloween once." So I'm hoping that we get to see that at some point if he still has that laying around. Anyways, what we're talking about here is deliberate practice. And deliberate practice is a very important topic. It's highly related to what we talked about 3 weeks ago, which was growth mindset, and that overall idea of living a process-oriented life. Looking at the journey to get there and not only the outcome of our performances. Deliberate practice is the key to expert performance. What's expert performance to us? That's elite level track and field. That's succeeding at the highest level. That's winning SEC championships, scoring at the SEC level, being at the international level of competition in track and field. Which for us, that's what we're going for. Now it's important to kind of recognize the context of what we're living in and where that fits in with deliberate practice and expert performance. Oftentimes people see someone who is elite level, and what do they say? Well, most commonly they say something like, "Oh, that person's a genetic freak. That's just one of those outliers. That is an absolute freak." Coach Halter shares the story of when he was working with Christian Cantwell, 4-time world champion, silver medalist in the shot put. Oftentimes people would say that. That's almost insulting to him. Because yeah, is he a huge man? Does he have the physical capabilities to be a world champion? Yes. But by all accounts, he was one of the best practice athletes anyone has ever seen. He was meticulous in what he was doing, and that's what led to those elite level performances and those championships. Another thing that you'll often hear is, oh, well, maybe that person's not the best genetically, but they just work hard. They just work hard. Working hard's really stinking important. We talked about that in effort. We'll continue to talk about that. Effort over time is important. But one of the things that we'll get to is it's not just the effort, but the direction of that effort. Is it deliberate? So, with that said, everyone here, everyone in the stands right now, you have the genetic capability to be an elite level track and field performer here at the University of Missouri in the SEC, scoring points and winning championships. Your coaches would not have recruited you. They would have not let you on the team if they didn't see that genetic capability in you. All of you are working stinking hard. I'm seeing some of the women's long sprinters right now. They're probably going to struggle to stay awake because they were bounding around that field for what looked like endless laps there. That's hard effort. That's good work to get towards that place. And everybody's going to have the genetics and have the effort that is up here. But we also have to have some other things going on. And another thing that's going on is the environment. The environment is necessary to become elite or expert in any field. In one of the books that talks a lot about expert performance, they talk about Steve Jobs. People know who Steve Jobs is?
Apple.
Apple dude. So they came out with a phone recently that I hear is pretty cool.
6 and 6 plus.
6 and 6 plus right there. So anyway, Steve Jobs, he grew up in the 70s in the middle of Silicon Valley, which is the epicenter for tech people. And they talk about two things that are essential, and one of them is peers. If he was growing up somewhere else, you know, the middle of Arkansas. Arkansas is a terrible state. We don't have anybody from there, do we? Sydney, your part is great. Arkansas, not that good. Missouri, way better. So anyways, if he was there, he wouldn't be around the peers needed to get to that elite level. And what I'm talking about is he would go and be working on something, some program, some little gizmo. He'd have a problem. He'd call up his next door neighbor to come down and help him with it. Who's that? That's Bill Packard from Hewlett and Packard. They've made an awful lot of computers as well. These guys are all living in the same area. We have that going on here at Mizzou. We have 115 people on a team that are talented, that are working hard, and are striving for those really high-level goals of being elite. Use one another. Be the Bill Packard to the Steve Jobs. Help one another reach that level. Strive together. The other thing is mentors. And mentors in track and field come in two forms, the way I see it. Number one, your coaches. And it's their job to be demanding. It's their job to push you. It's their job to give you that feedback that's necessary to get you to the next level, get you to that expert level. Another way that mentors is incorporated in our sport is through team captains, upperclassmen, people that have been there before. You can mentor and help the other people that are in your event group, that are on your team, and help them in their path towards getting to those high levels as well. So we're lucky. At Mizzou, we have those. And we have those across both guys and girls team. We have those in all event areas. We have great coaches, we have great team leaders, we have people that have been there before and are going to help everyone along to get to that expert level, that elite level. So, we already talked about a little bit. Effort is essential. There's this guy, Andres Erickson, and he's the dude that came up with the deliberate practice thing. Florida State, really smart dude, professor, has done a ton of studies on this, not just in sport, but in music and in all these different things. He got this idea out there. Well, he didn't really, but people interpreted his research as 10,000 hours of effort and you become a master at it. You're at that elite level. Well, that is true. You have to put in a heck of a lot of effort. But it's also what type of effort that is. Just going through the motions for 10,000 hours is not going to achieve that. There's different type of effort. First type of effort that you've probably all experienced, I know you all have on the playgrounds or just growing up in the neighborhoods that you were at playing with other kids, is play. The effort of play. And what is that? You want to do it because it's fun. You're highly intrinsically motivated to do it. You know, you're going out there playing a game of tag. But are you ever really becoming the best tag player ever? No, because there's no direction. There's no mentor coming in. RJ's not giving you advice on how to tag someone. You know, there it has to be both high level of intrinsic motivation and direction. And that doesn't have it. Play doesn't have it. Now then there's work. I think everybody in here has worked at some time in their life. I know for me, when I think of a work effort, I think about shingling roofs in the summer in high school, when it's like 90 degrees, 100 degrees on a roof, and you're stripping shingles off of it. That effort is in a way that you are taught skills to a point of adequacy. Was I good at stripping shingles off the roof? Yeah, I could get it done. I could get it done in a decent amount of time. But was I really motivated to be the best stripper of shingles out there? Heck no. I just wanted to get my paycheck. That's all I was looking for. I wanted to be adequate at it. And adequacy in track and field at this level does not cut it. Just showing up to practice and going through the motion will not get to the point where you're on the SEC podium. So there's the third type of effort that we're going to talk about. And that's what we started with in the front with that idea, deliberate practice. And this is the key in expert performance. And what deliberate practice is finding something that you enjoy, that you're intrinsically motivated for. For all of us, that's our event in track and field. And then having directed, pointed practice towards that. And that's what we're doing here. And that's how we're going to get to that level. 3 parts to deliberate practice. How you get that. Number 1, Franz talked about it up on the Jumbotron there, and that's breaking down the event. Breaking down your event, looking for the skills necessary for that elite performance. So that may be looking over video. That may be talking with your coach. That may be talking with another student athlete who's done that event before and really finding out what's needed. Second part is having that feedback there. And feedback comes in multiple different ways. Feedback can come from, how much weight you put on the bar in the weight room, or your time coming through, or from your coach going and giving you that important stuff right away. When you go and make that throw and Coach Halter or Coach Lee are going to tell it, get that elbow up. That's important. And using that, because it can go in one ear and out the other, or it can go in one ear, you process it, and try to make it better the next time, the next attempt. That's being deliberate. The third one, always upping the challenge. Challenging yourself at a higher level. Increasing that challenge. What is that? When you really think about that, that's learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable. If it's easy, step it up a notch. And I go into the staff meeting and we present this and then we talk about it. We have great conversations where we're just talking about examples and how does this live in our situations. And one thing that I bring up right away is like, oh yeah, I heard CarJ talking about the long sprint girls doing 3x600 last week, and he was really pumped up about it because they're just crushing their times. They're supposed to be in like 2 flat, and they're going under. They're going 150 something, ending at 147, really getting after it. That's awesome. That's really good. I'm like, oh yeah. So I bet you anything CarJ's going to dial it up a notch. Well, yeah, that's one way. And Coach Burns jumped on that real quick. He said, yeah, we've been doing these long escalation runs. And that's exactly what we're doing. The times are getting a little bit faster, a little bit faster. You know what? That's awesome. We're dialing up that challenge. But then there's also that idea that not everything is done in that way. You're not going to have those linear moments all the time where you can just slowly get better. There's going to be those points where you have a practice and you're not hitting the times, or that's not the purpose of the practice. Today, bounding around the field for that sprints group, that's not a timer thing. That's effort. And that's learning to put in the effort required. And also, maybe one of those days when you're not hitting your times, am I putting that effort forward? Because there could be a million different things that are going on. You could be tired from the weight room. Oh heck, maybe you didn't sleep a whole lot because you had an exam. Now, maybe we'll talk about life balance and stuff like that if that's the cause. But there are going to be those points where, because of other situations, you have to focus on the effort and getting to that. So, with that, we talked about in the staff meeting a couple examples. Where does this deliberate practice live in our team? And one that Coach Halter brought up right away was the story of Megan Collins. Megan Collins was a discus and hammer thrower on the team a couple of years back. She was a good high school thrower. I tell you what, everybody here was a good high school athlete. I guarantee you that. To be at the University of Missouri, you had to be good. You come to college, everybody was good. Everybody was good in high school. And, you show up, you start working. She was working, she was coming to practice, but she wasn't being deliberate in it. Some of that lack of meticulousness or that lack of really getting into it caused her to be a little sloppy with some of her positions in the throws. You know what that ends up leading to? Injuries. Injuries that put her in a position where she couldn't even compete in the discus moving into the latter portions of her career. That was kind of a wake-up call. That was kind of a, hey, if it's gonna be, it's on me. So she comes in with a renewed sense of focus, a renewed sense of deliberate practice in doing what she's doing and focusing on those arm positions and all that. And I tell you what, he says that, and Krishna can verify this as well, there was times leading into a Big 12 championships where she hadn't for weeks, 6 weeks, put a throw outside of the cage. Which in throwing, that's not good because outside the cage is like 30 feet. And you're not scoring many points at a Power 5 conference when you're not getting it to the grass even. I think I could get it to the grass, and I don't have Hans and Franz muscles, that's for sure. Point being though, she understood that that was part of the process. And deliberate practice isn't always going to lead to optimal results in the short term. But overall in the long term, she gets down to Norman, Oklahoma in the Big 12 championships. Sure enough, big PR. Big PR points on the board. That's because of the deliberate practice that she put in to get to that point. Another quick story that we'll share with you is someone that's on the team now, and that is Caitlin Fisher. So Caitlin, last outdoor track, starts running the 10K, and you'll go and you'll see SEC championships. She gets up there in the lead. She does a great job, runs a heck of a race, goes out there. She gets kicked down by another girl from Missouri that chose to go to that terrible state of Arkansas. Robertson. What's it? Robinson. Yeah, Diane. Anyways. So she gets kicked down by her. She comes back, and I don't know if she'll admit it or not, but some of the first things she's talking about is, well, I don't have a kick. You know, when it comes to what are we going to do? We're going to go earlier? How's that going to work? Shaylee starts talking to her, and Shaylee goes and says, no, you just have to learn how to kick. You know, it's a skill. We can do this. We need to practice it. We need to practice it deliberately. So Shaylee probably didn't know that this was called deliberate practice, and Caitlin didn't either. But what they did is they structured workouts. They had that feedback. They structured then the workouts to create the challenge of having to kick. And at that time of the year, most of the ladies were on their downtime, so she was having to work out with two of the guys, Max and Hayden. And they would go and do 6, 8K worth of work, and then they'd get back on the track, and they'd work on 400-meter repeats at a faster pace, working on kicking, thinking about being in that situation of first rounds or NCAA championships and having to throw it down and be your fastest at the end. You know what ends up happening? Get to the NCAA Outdoor Championships in Eugene, and there's a moment where she's sitting back there, she has to kick people down. She has to go. And what does she do? She throws down. She runs a 72-second last quarter, which was probably the fastest 400 meters that she had ran in a race probably the entire year. She's saying ever right now. Running your fastest quarter at the end in the biggest stage, the NCAA championships, she rolls down 2 girls. So the girl a month earlier that's talking about just being sit and duck when it's kick time is now the one being the aggressor and running people down. Now, unfortunately, one of those 2 people was a lapped runner. She thought she had gotten the 8th place. She'll have to sell it for 9 and only a school record and a PR of almost a minute. But the point of it being that practice, that deliberate practice of working on that skill that was deemed to be important, paid off. So think of the ways that you can do that. Think of the ways that you can be deliberate in your practice. Ross brought it up, and he said that he's done this at various places that he's been at. Going into the day and asking yourself, what's the purpose of my practice? So often we just do it, but oftentimes we don't think, how can I get better? And actually creating that purpose instead of just going through the motions. And then at the post end of practice, think about, how did I get better? And they may not be huge wins, but little victories in those practices that got you better that day. Think about that. That's part of being deliberate. I'll end you with just one thing because I think it really parallels academics and athletics, and y'all are student athletes. I always like bringing it back to that. And this was shared with me from one of those guys that would have been a mentor to me when I was a student athlete way back in the day. And this guy was a senior. I really respected him, cut a ton of time. He went from being a walk-on to being an All-American. And he was, if you like times, 2 flat 800 runner down to being a 151 800 runner, which doesn't quite get it done at this level, but pretty darn close. And he told me, second day of practice while I'm taking a run with him, he goes and says, all right, first thing, I've seen a lot of people come through here, and a lot of them either end up quitting, getting kicked off, or don't pan out to anything. He said there's 2 things that you can do. You can take one path or the other. And he said, first off, class and school are very similar. If you don't show up to school, if you don't go to class, if you don't go to practice, there is no way that you're going to succeed. You're not going to be here very long. You're not going to even make it through a year. If you go to class and you go to practice and you just go through the motions, do the bare minimum, the least amount of reading that you have to, even if you crack the book open. We've all been there. We've been in that class where you just kind of, you know what, I'm going to just kind of wing it and see how it goes. Or if you go to practice, you think just being at practice is going to make you good? No. Just going through it and saying, yeah, you know, I finished it, that's not going to lead. You may be able to stick around, but it's not going to lead to great results. If you really want to succeed, if you really want to get to that expert level, you have to go above and beyond. That's taking notes in class. That's reading the material. That's reading the extra material. That's asking a question to a professor when you're not quite sure on what's going on. That's seeking out help from a tutor. That's going and finding a mentor to help you. Same thing in the track. It's going and finding out what you can do to be your complete best. Really delving into it, understanding the context of what you're in, going and finding and asking the questions of your coaches of how do you get to the next level, going and putting in the effort every single day. That's what we're talking about with deliberate practice. You do that, you dramatically increase the likelihood that you become an expert level performer. If you do that, we score a lot of points at an SEC meet, we have a lot of fun. So with that, that's deliberate practice. And if you have any questions, feel free to talk to me about it.